Hey there guys, welcome back. Today we are covering Aatchik, the Emerald Radian from the new aetherdrift spoiler. He's a cool commander, black-green insect tribal, independent from his set's mechanics, so he just can be run alone. So we are 6 mana, 3/3 insect druid. We have, when he enters, create a 1/1 green insect token for each artifact and or creature in your graveyard. Cool that he cares about artifact. Plus, whenever another insect you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on him and each opponent loses a life. So we abuse our commanders entering effect, so our creatures are sacrificial, cheap, they have sack outlets, we get them into the graveyard, and we have a few artifacts that can stack themselves too, so we kind of fill up our yard slowly across the length of the game. Commander enters and we'll abuse it and flicker him, reset him, get more tokens, and just start sacrificing every insect and hopefully kill our opponents. So a really cool commander interaction is the iridescent horn beetle. So with the beetle, beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 green token for each counters put on creatures you control this turn. Your commander gains counters from your insects dying. It's a cool little loop. So you could sacrifice 10 insects, put 10 counters on your commander, everyone loses 10 life, the horn beetle sees 10 counters get put on, and generates another 10 tokens. And doubling season, because we care about tokens and 1/1 counters, makes this deck just generally better. In terms of lieutenants to the deck, Zask works great. He lets you play insects and lands from our graveyard, which we do care about, and if you want to alter the deck to have a bit of self-mill, he's a must-have. Plus, when an insect you control dies, you can put it on the bottom of your owner's library and then mill 2 cards, so it helps fill up our graveyard a bit better, and you can give them Death Touch and a little buff. The Infestation, he's a really cool one. Flying Death Touch, a 2/2, whenever a player sacrifices a non-token creature, we create an insect, so it rewards us for having a lot of sack outlets for the non-tokens. We'll get more tokens out of it. Plus, whenever an insect we control attacks, defending player loses a life and we gain a life. Him along with the commander can close out a game really quick. Then we've got Grist the Hunger Tide, a very flavorful planeswalker, cares about insects. It's an insect if it's not on the battlefield, so Zas can let you cast it from the graveyard. It creates insect tokens, adds a little bit of mill, you can kill other things you don't want to know about, and then you can make people lose life if you've got a number of creature cards in your graveyard. It's kind of doing everything our commander cares about. And of course, Grave Pact is a must-have in a deck like this because we're going to be sacrificing a lot of things. So to reset our commander and abuse his enter the battlefield effect to get tons of tokens, Conjurer's Closet is a staple. At our end step, we reset our commander, exile it, return to the battlefield. He enters, checks the number of things in the graveyard, and boom, army. Then we've got the big golden boat here. Every time a creature that crewed it, and the thing attacks, the creature goes on a little trip, and it comes back at the end step, doing another enter the battlefield trigger. It is a big fat 3/6, so hopefully it doesn't die in combat with the high toughness. Helm of the Host, I love it, you guys know me, I put it on all my commander decks. Beginning of combat, we create a token of our commander, except the token isn't legendary, and it breaks it pretty quick from there, because then our opponents will lose 2 life per insect death, then 3, then 4, plus every time it enters it creates more tokens and more tokens. It's pretty broken. Saw in half, pretty much take a creature, kill it, create 2 copies of it, the power and toughness are half rounded up. 1 copy will die due to legend rule, we don't care because it enters and you get tons of 1/1 tokens anyway. Really cool little interactive card. It is legal in Commander because it did have a reprinting in Bloomburrow that wasn't Infinity Art. Then we've got our Feign from Death triggers. So Feign from Death, Undying Malice, Rebirth, and Not Dead After All are all cards that say when the creature dies, return it to the battlefield from the graveyard, with a little twist to it. Maybe you lose some life, comes with a counter on it, whatever. But it takes it from one zone to another, so it's basically a new ETB effect, and it protects our commander. It makes it harder for opponents to kill him, remove him, whatnot. For sack outlets, the no-brainer is mana, so Ultra Dementia can make target player mill, so if we want to fill up our graveyard, we totally can. Or we can try and race someone's library out if they're pretty empty. Ashnod's Altar and Frickin' Altar give us mana as well, which we care about because it helps recast our commander. There are situations where you can play your commander, make a ton of tokens, sack the tokens for mana, then the commander, and recast the commander and just keep going. Yawgmoth, look, you're paying life to sacrifice, but you get to put negative counters on creatures and draw cards for just sacrificing bugs. God, it's strong. Warren Soul Trader, again, paying life, but you can convert your bugs into treasure tokens to give you mana to help recast your commander again and again and again. And then the Seer, just, scry 1 for sacking a creature. He's a staple. Carrion is pretty cool. It's on the reserve list, it's about $5, but it's flavorful for the commander. Sacrifice a creature, and you put insect tokens, which are maggots, which are 0/1s, into play equal to its power. Your commander grows and grows the more insects that have died. So mid-late game, let's say your commander is a 10/10. In response to it dying, sack it to Carrion and create 10 more tokens, which you're going to care about later in the game. And similar idea with the right consumption, you can sack any creature in addition to playing its cost. You get to deal damage with power to target player. If your commander's pretty big, he might one-shot someone in late game. Onto the actual bugs. So Spring Heart is very strong here. With his landfall trigger, if it's attached to a creature, landfall triggered, you get to create a copy of that creature. So if it's on your commander, your new copy of your commander enters battlefield, you get a ton of tokens, legend rule triggers, and the new copy dies, but you kept the tokens. But it could go into any of your just good general bugs and create more and more copies of them through landfall. If it's not attached to a creature, instead you can pay the 2 and just make a 1/1 bug. Either way, I'm pretty happy about that. Both Caustic Caterpillar and Haywire Might are bugs that can kill themselves to go and wreck artifact and enchantments basically, so they fill up the graveyard and the creature type they care about. Circuit Mender gains life and draws cards when it leaves, love it. Scoot Swarm and Scoot Mob can get out of hand very quick. With the Swarm, landfall you create a bug token, if you have 6 more lands you create a copy of the Swarm itself, which keeps the landfall trigger and it will just grow exponentially. Scoot Mob just gets a ton of counters more and more and more on it, and it becomes just a genuine big threat that has to eat a removal spell. So we've got the Brood Hatch and Saber Ants, both of them reward them from getting hit hard. Keep them as chump blockers on your side of the board. Someone flings a 10/10 into you, throw the thing under the bus, and you create 10 bug tokens which you need for your commander. Same idea with Hornet's Nest, if it gets hit you create that many tokens. Then we've got Hornet Queen which enters and brings in 4 tokens which you care about. Ant Queen you can pay 2 mana to create more insect tokens which you can sacrifice to mana to keep making more and more and more, and your commander can keep making people lose life. Living Hive, when it deals damage to play you create that many 1/1 bug tokens, which again, we're going to get that huge army, we can start sacrificing and killing everyone. And you've got Canoptic Scarab Swarm from the 40k set. When it enters battlefield, just nuke someone's graveyard, and for each artifact and land removed, we get more bug tokens. And we've got Blex as like a tribal support. He makes all your insects +1/+1, and when he does leave, you get him some life. So just supporting kind of draw mechanics here. Whip of Erebos giving your entire board state lifelink, nice to have because we do have a few paying life mechanics. Lightning Greaves and Mithril Coat are here to protect your commander for when you don't want it to actually die. Then for draw, you've got Knight's Whisper and Sign and Blood, which are cheap early on draw. Then you've got the Ravenous Amulet and the Culling Dice, which are artifacts that can come out nice and early. You can sacrifice creatures to them, then draw your cards, and they can get themselves into the graveyard to increase your artifact creature count for your commander. Skull Clamp, no brainer, 1/1 bugs everywhere, just throw them on the crown, they get instantly killed, draw 2 cards. And then we've got the Baubles here, both copies. They give us some information from opponent's hand / top of the library, and they draw us a card, they replace themselves, and they're an artifact that goes to the graveyard, which our commander will check and generate more tokens for us. In terms of removal, Blast Edict's a no-brainer. 13 creatures on the board is very easy, and there are some cases where we actually have more than 13 creatures, so we might get to keep our commander, which would be pretty cool. The Swarmyard Massacre is a one-sided board wipe in a commander like this. It creates you 2 tokens, but then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 for each of those creatures. It can be a one-sided board wipe, it's nuts. And then we've got Pest Infestation, which is an artifact enchantment removal, depending how much you pay, but you also create double that in insect tokens, which when they die gain your life in addition. But then I've got Assassin's Trophy, Putrefy, Withering Torment, and Feed the Swarm to pretty much hit creatures and enchantments, or things I don't want to know about. For ramp, Perilous Forays is great. It's expensive at 5 mana, but paying 1 mana to sack a creature and search your library for a land with a basic type, so you can get dual lands if you put them in there. Just pay 1, sack a bug, go and start thinning your deck down quick as you can. Cryptolitherite turns all your bugs into mana dorks, it gets ahead very quick. Burgeoning in a 4-player game, playing 3 extra lands before your next turn is great. Kadama's Reach and Cultivate and Wayfarer's Bauble are all staples. I like the Bauble again because it fills up the graveyard with a card type our commander cares about. For the mana rocks, I've kept them very cheap. Talisman, Arcane Signet, and Golgari Signet are all only at 2 mana, and Sol Ring of course, a no-brainer. For lands, the only things that really stand out are Swarmyard, because you can tap it to regenerate any insect, use it on your commander to probably protect it. The Shifting Woodland with its Delirium can become a copy of a permanent in your graveyard on a turn. There might be an insect in there that we care about. 3 Tree City can be very aggressive mana production. You name insect and you can produce a ton of mana based off that creature type. High Market can be a land that can do sacrificing for us if we're desperate. Then Oran Reef can put 1/1 counters on each green creature entered battlefield this turn. Our commander can make a lot of tokens very quickly. It could generate an army to win in that way if you wanted to. In terms of your multicolor lands, being a 2-color deck, I kind of just go anything that's under a few dollars. No point to be silly with your land base. It's commander, your 2 color, it's pretty strong. And then Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic, and 9 of each basic. And that is Aatchik, a really cool bug commander that's independent from his own set. He cares about self-milling somewhat, or just a way to fill up your graveyard through general attrition. And the fact it's on entry, not cast for the generating the insect army is great. And he also supports them dying by getting bigger himself and trying to kill everyone at the same time through life loss. He's a cool black-green commander trying to do everything on his own. Lots of support for him too. I think he's great. Plus, any insect that gets printed in Magic, you're gonna have to look at it and think, could this work for him? Alright, thank you for watching, guys. I enjoyed this guy a lot. I'm curious to see what other cards can come from Aetherdrift. Alright, please give us a like and a sub. We are going for 5k. Thank you so much to my patrons for your support, especially Marcus, my main man. And thank you to anyone doing donations on the YouTube videos himself. I really cannot thank you guys enough. Yeah, that's it. Have a good one. See ya.